How's everybody going? How's everybody going? How's it going? I'm Jim. We are going to be looking at this cargo bike here from Eunorau. I've heard it pronounced other ways. I might not be pronouncing it right, but it is their long-tail mid-drive cargo bike. And Eunorau is a facing retail front of a larger retailer that also has multiple dealers across the US. So sometimes you will see the same bike with other names. There's a minimal amount of branding on these bikes, so it allows them to be resold that way. This bike retails for $1,999 US in this configuration. There's also an option to add some rear baskets, front and rear basket kit, not available a la carte. You have to buy all the racks and baskets in one, and as one option. And then there's also an option to do that rack kit with an additional battery. So it's pretty cool at the time of purchase. You can save some money going that route. Pretty good value. I think it jumps up to $25.99 for the highest end with the rack and the battery. So not a bad deal, and the extra battery is actually larger capacity than the one that's here. So I'm going to just jump through some of the specs briefly and some dimensions, and we're mostly going to spend time riding. Down in the description will be all these specs and dimensions, and these are ones I measured. And note, these bikes tend to have a little evolution in componentry, so some of these things might not be exactly the same as a bike you might receive, or if you already have one that is on your particular bike. Some small differences, chain ring size, some components like that. So let's look at this thing and show you how it works. Just a quick note, I put on the footrest, as you will see here. I did elect to take off the wooden platform on the deck and down on the footrest. I just liked the way it looked a little better, and I was able to put a cargo bag on the back because this was free, so I could actually Velcro it on there, so I had a way to haul cargo. The diameter of this tubing is going to be too big for nearly all panniers that you'd be able to find. You can see in the front, this has a very reminiscent to the front of some of the Rad Power bikes. So because of that, I didn't need the full basket kit, so I ordered a front rack from Rad Power bikes. And what you will see, hopefully you can see that, it doesn't actually line up. So these aren't like a industry standard bolt hole pattern or anything like this. So I had to make a modification to make this fit. So I didn't really use it on this bike, but I was able to kind of make it work. I'm just going to go through a few dimensions real quick. Like I said, again, these will all be listed down below. So this seat's in its farthest down position. That's the minimum saddle height, and that's going to give you 32 inches above the ground. Of course, this is a little higher because it's on that dual kickstand. It's not resting completely on the back tire at the moment. A standover height, I typically measure where you would stand, which would be about where these bottle bosses are, and that is about 24 inches off the ground. Noting that if you do have a water bottle here, you do effectively gain a lot more height on your standover. So it's nice to have these water bottle bosses, but it does interfere with your ability to get off and on the bike. It is a long bike at 79 inches, so a bit over 6 feet. And the bottom bracket height is about 11 inches, which is pretty standard down there. And the total weight of the bike I measured at 69.6 pounds, just a hair under 70 pounds. All right, so we're just gonna kind of come up here. Hopefully we don't get too much glare from the setting sun today, but we're gonna go from right to left across the handlebars. We got quite a nicely ergonomic grips here. Throttle that you could just hear there is available in assist level 1 through 5. Not available in assist level 0. No throttle there. Simple Shimano 7-speed shifter here. Also pretty nice feeling brake levers that are more of a 3-finger lever with brake cutoffs. Your control panel over on this side. And there's really a minimal amount of information that's displayed on here. It kind of toggles back and forth, as you'll see here, between trip distance and total distance. So I have ridden this bike getting close to 100 miles now, but you do get some other information displayed to you while you're riding. So turning on the lights is a single press of the power button, and that turns on the front headlight and integrated rear light. And I'm gonna hit the brake lever so you can see there is a small amount. I think there is brake light functionality, but it's nice to have integrated lights on both sides. The handlebars are interesting to me on this bike. They're flat. The handlebars do fold, so it has like a folding bike stem and handlebar, which you could. It's kind of a little bit odd to have on a cargo bike, honestly. But then you also have this section where it comes up, so you get a lot of potential height adjustability between this, and it's quite a long seat post as well. The seat post diameter is 31.8, so a little different diameter, but you can make other different configurations work for you. The seat is wide, but it's got some cushion in here, but I haven't found it to be super comfy on long rides. Good, nice wire management through here. Talking about geometry real quick, you can see how with folding bikes with the stem, you kind of get the seat post angle and the stem angle kind of diverge a little bit. So you get a fairly long effective top tube on this bike, which is more in the range of 23 inches. So kind of a longer effective top tube. So the reach is a little bit longer than you might expect for somewhat of a compact looking bike. Coming down the front, we got Kenda Kiniption. I think that's what they're written on the other side. Tires, they're very basic tires, not any reinforcements. I got a flat on my first trip out at 14 miles away from home. So the tires are probably something I would consider upgrading pretty recently. They are 24-inch by 2.3, so it brings the whole center of gravity of this bike down. It is a really stable, easy to ride, nicely handling bike. Textro Aries mechanical disc brakes with 180 millimeter rotors. You can see that 180 right there. Nice full coverage plastic fenders. They don't really make much noise. And a defoppulator right there to keep the tire stable when loading it with cargo. Come down here to your 48 volt 11.6 amp hour battery, and that has Samsung cells, and the battery by itself weighs 7.2 pounds. The battery, when it's on the bike, is mostly in the locked position. To remove it, you turn the key like a standard. This is a pretty standard, and then you pull the battery to the side, and then it kind of acts as a handle. And so you can charge by that charging port on the bottom there, off or on the bike. Putting the battery back on is pretty simple like I just showed, and that does have a small indicator of charge level on the top. Come on down to the meat of the bike, which is a DAPU 500 watt mid-drive motor. Lower power output, torque sensing motor. I'll show you how this thing works as we're riding. 170 millimeter crank arms, some real basic pedals. I've seen on some of the newer things they say they have folding pedals, which again I wouldn't understand why you would do it on a cargo bike. I would probably opt for some nice wide platform pedals. Coming on back, we got the repeat of the same brake setup on the back, and you do have the fender with a nicely integrated skirt. Right through here, this is, I'm assuming, where your extra battery would connect. The bike does have a really nice amount of attachment points. Nicely integrated attachment points for child seats. You know, some of the welding and some of the fit and finish isn't excellent on some things, but the bike does feel very solid. And with that 440 pound overall weight capacity, you know, I've hauled a passenger on here with no problem at all. Back, we got a Shimano Altus 7-speed derailleur in the rear, and that's one step up from base level. It works all right. I've had a bit of finicky adjustment getting that to work real well initially. You do have a derailleur protector bracket there. The teeth setup there on the back is a 14 to 28. So as we'll show when we're riding, it's lacking a little bit on the high end gearing. I feel it kind of spins out a little on the early side. So by my count, we got a 44 tooth chain ring here with aluminum chain guard, So you have a decent, you know, it's nicer than those plastic ones for sure. You got your, of course, very beefy double leg kickstand there. One note here, to be noted here, the distance between the pedals and this lower foot rest is not great. I have a size 10 shoe and I find that my heel often hits this and I have to ride with my foot a little more mid-foot than I would typically prefer to ride. Just going to show you really quickly how the kickstand flips out of the way, and then we're going to go ride, because I mean, I can talk all day about specs, and hopefully just a little look through, you're able to pick out stuff even if I didn't say it, but I'm trying to give you a little bit of a riding taste, and so let's do that. All right, so you have to push the bike forward, and what I tend to do is I tend to put my foot back here, because I'll show you why. If you see that kind of loud pop, it's not hurting anything, it just is a little loud. So if you kind of put your foot here and just catch it, that's what I've done on this particular bike. It just kind of reduces a little bit of that noise. I am pressing on the minus button, and this does have a walk mode, which is a very ginger walk mode, of course, with a mid-drive, because you actually are using the gearing of the drivetrain. The speed of this walk mode is dependent on what gear you're in. See you on the trail. All right, Jim here aboard the Longtail cargo bike, and here we are in assist level 0, cruising along. You know, it doesn't have too much extra, doesn't feel like there's additional force in the system when you're riding this way. So, but for me, somewhere in the 10 to 15 mile per hour range is about all I can handle. You can probably already hear that I'm breathing a little bit hard. And so we're gonna stay right in the middle of the drivetrain here. Actually, no, I'm gonna go down to the lowest gear, which is 7 speed. That's 14 tooth. So it's not the lowest gear in the world, and or the highest gear in the world. We're gonna cruise through here. So we're in assist level 1. You probably hear that assist come in. It comes in really gently in assist level 1, and it kind of is capping out in this 13 to 15 mile range comfortably for me. Now assist level 2, which is interesting, most of these assist levels you don't get much of a jump in top speed. What you do get a jump in, and this bar here is the current assist amount. You get a jump in how much force the system is coming in with. And being in a torque sensing mid-drive, it does come in very quickly, but as we're going to see, the way it comes in isn't all that refined. So we're going to go to assist level 3. You can already see I didn't change anything. You know, a lot of other pedal sensor e-bikes, you would hear a difference. One, the bike's pretty quiet, so you don't really hear it, but there isn't a huge difference. Now if you jump up into assist level 4, this is where I get a little more top speed. So I get a little more top speed here, but it's still not great. I'm still like 17, and then back up to assist level 5. And, you know, we're somewhere, you know, we're still around 17 or so. So where this really changes things between the assist levels is the amount of force that comes in. I'm going to demonstrate that now. So, hopefully you heard that. It's basically coming in with the most force it can come in with. Cool bike. And then it still caps out in a similar spot. The problem for me is if you're trying to maintain the top of the assist level in any of these speeds, the motor really fluctuates off and on just like this. It's kicking in and out. It does not feel, it feels jerky. It just feels herky-jerky. For a lot of ways, it feels nicer to ride in assist levels 2 or 3. So when the motor is cycling like that, it doesn't feel as jerky because it's not coming in with as much force. And I think the reason to this is the torque sensor is requiring too great of a initial amount of torque. Thank you. So because it's too sensitive to that initial amount of torque, you're not able to kind of spin your legs at really low input. Even with a low amount of input, trying to cycle my legs as smoothly as I can, I get a really fluctuating amount of assist. So this is me pretty much spinning out in the upper assist level. So it's really difficult with this gearing to maintain this speed. So that'd be easy enough to change if you really liked everything else about the bike. The bike is very, very stable. Like these little twisties. So at higher assist levels, I'm going to demonstrate here what the problem is. You get a little bit of instability in the handling, riding no hands. Now it doesn't feel like that really when you have your hands on the handlebars. That could present some issues while you are loaded with cargo. I didn't really try to ride no hands. I don't think most people would, but it could indicate there could be some instability on an otherwise really stable feeling bike. Again, you can see that assist pulsing in and out of there. So the refinement of the drivetrain is just not really there in my mind, and it's kind of disappointing because I like a lot of the other features. I do think the folding handlebars are odd. They present some reach issues for anybody really shorter than myself at 5'10". Oh, well, you probably saw there the aluminum frame, even though there is a steel fork up front, it does tend to transmit vibration. It'd be great if you had a steel frame on a cargo bike for a lot of reasons, but weight savings are really negligible on something like this, and some better ride comfort would be nice. And you can see there's a different, that was a cadence censored bike up there, and you know, he's just kind of spinning his legs and the bike's going. This one you can't really do that because you got to press it like that. I'm spinning my legs and nothing's happening. Acceleration wise, bike did surprisingly well, and you can change that by leveraging your gearing a little bit to get even better throttle only acceleration, just for comparison to like the Rad Wagon was a bit faster, and braking was then also stopped quicker. The 24-inch tires, low center gravity, you can just really give this full on braking, and it's heavy enough that it doesn't really skid, but I was pretty impressed with the braking ability of this bike. Going to quickly go through the way the throttle works. No throttle and assist level 0. Assist level 1, you feel it, you hear it come in there. 2, 3, all the way up. Now here I'm going to max it out. I am not quite at full battery because I am almost 13 miles into my ride. But this is about where it levels out. I'm in the highest gear right now, a little over 20 miles per hour. You can hear there's a little clicky noise to the motor, but it's generally pretty dang quiet. It does feel like there's the smallest amount of increase in what power is available to the throttle in assist levels. I can't really find anywhere to confirm that or not. As far as range goes, it's not too unexpected with the size of this battery, which is 48 volts, 11.6 amp hours. I got somewhere in the order of 24 miles or so. I wasn't able to get much of a deviation from that, really independent of how I was riding at the time. I just saw a Rad Wagon pass me, which is kind of interesting to be on this bike. To be honest, if I had to really compare between the two bikes, especially this one being more expensive, it'd be hard for me to select this bike over the Rad Wagon after riding both of them. I was really optimistic that the mid-drive was just going to check every box for me, and I was going to use this as my work bike. Just the way I can't really get used to the power output, and it just doesn't quite feel right to me. So I'm going to come up the hill. I do a hill climb. I actually climbed this earlier with a full battery, and I lost my footage. So this isn't going to be the greatest comparison, but this might be more likely. Say you're riding home from work, and you know at the end of your ride you got this long hill, and with this bike I'm getting at the maximum in the 20-25 mile range. I went 14, so at 14 I'm at this part of the battery, so I'm feeling the little reduction in power output. 3, 2, 1. So I try to shift there and while moving it. I don't really like to do that because of the sound it makes, but if you need to climb a hill, that might be the way to do it. Hey, hopefully this look at the long-tail cargo bike helps you out. If it does, leave me a big thumbs up. Please leave a comment if you have one, and if you have a suggestion or anything like that. My big takeaway on this bike would be to make sure I was able to ride it beforehand. That way the sensor works is not going to be for everybody, and there is a hub motor bike version of this, basically the same frame from the same company, that maybe it would be more appealing to you. And if you're comparing it with the Rad Wagon, that electronic, there's a lot more refinement in the electronics of that particular bike. So, you'd have to judge some of the other performance specs for what you're looking for. Anyway, have a good one. We'll see you next time. Be safe.
Catch the wave.